involving the mischaracterization, not of just Lavoie, but of the whole occupation, because I think it has been grossly mischaracterized. These folks, and I'm going to go back to Ammon Bundy, if they have arms, if they have security, it's because they're concerned about their personal safety. Why would they be concerned about their personal safety? If you were Ammon Bundy and you'd gone through the experience he had in Bunkerville, if you'd had snipers, if you'd had military personnel, if you had been tased 4 times, if you had had those contractors, if you had your brother Dave arrested, beat up, thrown in jail for simply taking pictures on a public, do about it. We live in the United States of America. We have a Constitution. We have the Second Amendment that guarantees our right to bear arms to defend ourselves. If they are bearing arms, it is because of their concern for their personal safety. It is because they believe in the right to defend themselves. Those people who think that this, my perception again, that this is some attempt to spark a shootout or a rebellion or a revolution that will spread across the country, I'm telling you, I think that is absolute hogwash. That's what certain elements of the government and the media want to portray it, to try to make something like that happen, to say, okay, this is what happens when crazy people have guns. I don't think that's the case at all. And so if they have arms, it's for their own personal security. Otherwise, let's think about this. This is portrayed as a federal building. Well, let's describe it another way. This is public land. This is a public facility. Are not the Bundys and the Finicums and anyone else involved members of the public? Is it that sign that's got an American flag on it right now says, "Welcome to your National Wildlife Refuge"? Does that not include the Bundys, the Finicums, all of you, me? Why shouldn't they be able to come here? People say they shouldn't be able to. I've heard they're trespassing. How are they trespassing on public land? How do you differentiate this between the armed occupation that former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder engaged in 1970 of an ROTC building at Columbia University? What's the difference?
Amen.
Yes, sir.
What is the difference? If they have arms, it's because of concerns about their own personal safety. So if Eric Holder can do that and then become the U.S. Attorney General, we need to rethink the narrative here. They're American citizens exercising their lawful rights under the United States Constitution. They're on public land that was basically unoccupied. I can't see that they've caused any damage to anything. I think you need to really seriously relook at the narrative that a lot of the media is trying to spin about this.
Sir?
I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
Sir, this morning I went down to see the FBI compound down below. They have a lot of electronic surveillance equipment. Do you believe that they're here to serve the public interest, or is it a conflict of interest because they're here to protect the government's seizure of land across the West?
The FBI?
The FBI, that's correct. The Federal Bureau of Investigation.
What public interests are at risk here? That's the question I ask you. If you're posing the question, are they here to protect the public's interests? Okay, let's identify the public's interests that are at risk. Somebody tell me what public interests are at risk that they need to be here to defend. Oh, help me out. I sincerely ask that question. I don't see any threats of violence. I don't see anybody intending. Think about what happened in Ferguson, Missouri. Think about what happened in a lot of places where there was a lot of damage, vandalism. Baltimore. The list goes on and on.
Nothing happening here.
None of that's happening here. It's public property. And I've been meeting with these folks all morning, and it looks like everything's in good condition. They're taking care of things. I don't understand how anyone can reasonably try to spin it into something. We know it happens, but that's my view. It's being spun into something it's not. Now, again, I don't represent the Bundys. I'm not in league with the Bundys. I don't necessarily agree with all their tactics. But when it comes to the basic principles, and I do believe that they were acting out of what they felt in their hearts they needed to do to help, assist, and lend support to their neighbors, the Hammonds. And now they're seeing the need, the greater need in Harney County to do more of that, and they feel like more and more people are coming forward with their own stories, and they're not quite as concerned about retaliation and reprisal, and so they're coming forward, they're expressing their concerns. There's no question, there's people here in Harney County like there is in every county. I live in a rural county. Again, this isn't my first rodeo. I've been through a very similar situation with the BLM before, a standoff, a showdown 15 years ago after the creation of the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument in King County and Garfield Counties, Utah. And the BLM was trying to do the same thing. Push ranchers out, get them off the land. There's no question about the kind of abuses that occur. Sooner or later, people have got to start standing up, and from what I can tell, that's what they're doing, and they're doing it peacefully, and they're not threatening anyone.
States, ultimately.
In that county.
In that county. Is that correct? He has the ultimate authority in that county.
I mean, there's a great book. I can't remember the exact name of the book, and I'm probably preaching to the choir to many of you, but it was written by Sheriff Richard. Has more power, more authority than anyone else in this land. And, you know, and that's a scary thought, especially if that sheriff doesn't understand his responsibilities under the Constitution. And I've seen this so many times. And I don't know, but my perception is that the sheriff here in Harney County is, like many sheriffs are, intimidated by the federal government. Hey, you know, the reality is they get all kinds of federal funds. You know, they're co-opted in the whole thing because they get a lot of resources to, and on the other hand, you know, say, we don't want to listen to what you have to say. They know the power of the federal government. There aren't that many sheriffs in this whole country that really have the backbone to stand up to the power and might of the federal government. And one thing I've always said is when you find one that does, hopefully he can balance that backbone enough that he doesn't abuse the locals, because that becomes an issue too. But that it's, you know, yes, the county sheriff has a lot of power. If he understands that, and he should fully embrace his responsibility. He's in charge here.
Just to clarify, so basically, so we get this on the record, he does have the jurisdiction to actually remove federal jurisdiction in this area if he chooses to do so.
That's not him to choose.
If necessary for public
safety.
safety.
Say something that everybody doesn't seem to understand. What you need to understand is that the system that our founding fathers had found was repugnant to a committee is all about. And that's why the safety committee is more powerful actually than the sheriff if he doesn't side with the citizen body. And I think that's what all this is about the redress of grievance.